I knew birthdays could be messy, but I never expected mine to end with my sister shoving a cake in my face so hard the world spun around me. I remember the splatter of frosting, the sting of blood mixed in, and Raven's loud, sharp, deliberate laugh as I slumped to the floor. People rushed over, but all they did was shrug. It was just a joke. As my vision flashed blue and white, I tried to believe them. I tried to stand up. But the next morning in the emergency room, the doctor froze over the x-ray and asked me a question no sister should ever ask. I grew up learning to suppress my emotions. The little hurts, the biting remarks, the moments when I should have felt wrong, but I dismissed them as harmless. In my family, calmness was an act, and I played my part well. I was the quiet, composed, self-sufficient daughter because, as my mother liked to say, Amara is strong. She can handle it. But what she meant was simpler. Raven needed the spotlight more. She was born 18 months after me, but you'd think she was the firstborn, the favorite, the sun around which we were all expected to revolve. She had this commanding presence, loud, dramatic, captivating. When she walked into a room, my mother would light up. When I walked in, my mother would soften, become polite, as if she'd just remembered I existed. I learned early on that Raven's mood set the tone for the entire house, and Catherine, our mother, would do anything to keep her smiling. I, on the other hand, was simply trying to adapt to that atmosphere. I tried not to question the little things. The way Raven accidentally bumped into the coffee table when we were 10. The way she whispered clumsy after I tripped on the stairs in high school. The way she insisted on carrying my bags to family gatherings, only for them to mysteriously spill. My mom always reacted the same way. Amara, don't overdo it. Your sister loves you. So I stopped asking for help. I focused on work, built a life in my small Seattle apartment, and kept my distance from others as much as possible. But Raven had a knack for finding ways to stay on my radar. Little comments, pointed remarks, moments she turned into jokes that everyone but me laughed at. And every time I tried to defend myself, I'd hear the same thing. You're being too sensitive. Raven didn't mean it. That's why, on the night of my 36th birthday, even as warm blood trickled down my neck and my vision blurred, a part of me kept wondering if I was overreacting. Maybe the pain emanating from the base of my skull was just bad luck. Maybe Raven's wide, sharp smile wasn't an expression of satisfaction, but rather of poor timing. Maybe the laughter around me wasn't cruelty, but confusion. I kept reliving that moment as I drove home, the steering wheel cold beneath my hands. I tried to believe it was just a joke, just an accident, just Raven being herself. But awake that night, my head throbbing, I felt something different. A deep instinct in my chest whispered that this time something serious was wrong. And the next morning, as I staggered into the emergency room, I realized that instinct hadn't been an overreaction. It was a memory trying to surface. By morning, the headache had intensified into a throbbing pain. Every heartbeat felt like a hammer pounding against the back of my skull. The bright light made me see things twice, and a wave of nausea washed over me as I tried to get up. I told myself I was fine, that all I needed was water and rest, but my body wouldn't listen. When I touched the sensitive area behind my ear, my fingers were sticky with clotted blood. Fear gripped my heart. I dressed slowly, clutching the wall whenever the room shook. Driving to the emergency room felt reckless, but calling someone would be even worse. I could hear my mother's voice saying, "You don't need a doctor. You bruise easily. Stop making a fuss." Then Raven would give me that soft, mocking laugh that always made me feel small. So I went alone. The emergency room in Seattle was crowded, but when the nurse saw me shivering from the overhead lights, she ushered me into the examination room without hesitation. I answered her questions. When did the injury happen? How did it happen? Did I lose consciousness? Each answer felt strangely heavy. Saying aloud that my sister had shoved a cake in my face wasn't supposed to sound like a medical emergency. Yet here I was, shivering beneath the paper gown. Dr. Marcus entered after a light knock, his expression calm but attentive. He told me to follow his finger, squeeze his hands, touch my nose, and smile. I tried my best, though the room kept tilting as if to remind me that gravity wasn't on my side. "Let's run some checks, just in case," he said quietly. Just in case. I wondered when I'd stopped feeling that word applied to my family. The imaging room was buzzing with the cold hum of machines. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying in my mind the image of Raven's face, her smile, the sharp, triumphant gleam in her eyes. For years, I'd justified that expression, misunderstood it, excused it. But now, with my throbbing head and the world spinning around me, the excuses suddenly felt flimsy. When Dr. Marcus returned, he wasn't as calm as he'd been. He pulled up a small chair and brought me closer to the screen, then turned it so I could see. "Amara," he began in a low voice, "you have a hairline fracture. Not serious, but real. And it didn't just happen yesterday." My stomach felt like it had dropped. "What do you mean?" He clicked on another image. "This one here, a rib on your left side, shows signs of an old fracture. Based on how it's healed, it looks like it happened about 3 years ago." 3 years ago. A fall down the stairs. Raven behind me. She put her arms around me afterward and whispered, "You're being so dramatic. You just slipped." I felt the edges of the examination table dig into my palms as my breath caught in my throat. Marcus watched me intently, as if trying to decide how much truth I could bear. Then he exhaled, picked up the phone mounted on the wall, and said the words that turned my world upside down. "I need to report this. It's urgent. Urgent in the sense that it was serious, that it wasn't a joke, that it wasn't something I made up." When he hung up, his eyes met mine with quiet certainty. "Amara, someone did this to you." For a long moment, I couldn't speak. The phrase, "someone did this to you," echoed in my head, louder than the alarm in the hallway, louder than my own heartbeat. I'd spent years taking the blame, minimizing myself, convincing myself that Raven's presence in every injury was just a coincidence. Accidents happen. The sisters are joking. I'm just clumsy. But Dr. Marcus's unwavering gaze left no room for the stories I told myself. A soft knock on the door before a woman entered the room. Detective Lena. She introduced herself with a measured calm, as if she'd seen this pattern many times. She pulled up a chair and sat down at my eye level, opening a small notebook. "Amara," she said gently, "I'm here because your injuries are causing some concern. I'd like to ask you a few questions." My throat tightened. "About Raven?" Her gaze didn't waver. "About your well-being." It was strange how those two concepts had become intertwined. She began with direct questions. "Who was at the Christmas dinner? Was there alcohol? Where exactly was Raven standing? Were there any previous injuries?" Each answer weighed down by the last. When she asked if anyone had ever advised me against seeing a doctor after an accident, something inside me broke. "Yes, sister," I whispered. "Every single time." Detective Lena wrote down her answer calmly, then looked up. "Did you believe her reasons?" I didn't know how to answer. Did I really believe her? Or did I just want to believe her because the alternative was unbearable? I stared at my trembling hands, remembering Raven placing an ice pack on my ribs 3 years earlier, insisting I didn't need medical bills, calling me an exaggerator. I remembered her sneering when I tripped in the parking lot, joking loudly that I should be wrapped in bubble wrap. I remembered her rushing to clean up any mess my injuries made, always presenting herself as the helper. I said calmly, "It seems she wanted to be the first person I would turn to, and the last person I would suspect." Detective Lena nodded, as if that made perfect sense. Before she could ask the next question, the door burst open. My mother's voice cut through the room before I could even see her face. "Amara Lynn Dalton, what the hell are you telling these people?" She burst in with Thomas, her expression a whirlwind of anger and fear. Raven wasn't with them yet. But somehow, her presence still hung heavy in the room. "Broken," my mother yelled. "Of a birthday joke? That's ridiculous. Tell them you're flustered. You bruise easily. You've always been sensitive. Sensitive, dramatic, overreacting." Words that shaped my entire childhood, and now pressed against the raw edges of my adulthood. Detective Lena stood there, calm but steady. "Mrs. Dalton, I want you to back off. Your daughter is speaking to me privately." My mother's jaw tightened as she glared at me, betrayal etched on her face. It wasn't a betrayal of what Raven might have done, but a betrayal of my own courage to speak out. And in that moment, something inside me shifted again. This time it wasn't a crack, but stability, a decision. For the first time in my life, I felt no shame. "Mom, I'm not embarrassed," I said in a steady though trembling voice. Her eyes widened with anger and disbelief. I turned completely towards Detective Lena and said, "I want to continue." Detective Lena wasted no time after I agreed. She asked my mother and Thomas to leave, and despite my mother's objections, it was clear from the detective's tone that it wasn't a matter of choice. When the door finally closed, a sense of relief washed over me, as if my mother's absence had finally resolved a decades-long affliction. Lena sat down again. "Amara, I'm going to be honest with you. The pattern you've described, the injuries, the downplaying of them, the pressure not to seek medical help, is troubling, and, in addition to what Dr. Marcus found, we need to take this very seriously." I nodded, though the reality of what she was implying was far-fetched, too much to grasp all at once. "We've requested the CCTV footage from the restaurant," she continued, "and we'll be speaking with every witness on your birthday. Now, I want you to focus on your own safety. Do you feel safe going home?" These questions struck me even more than the diagnosis itself. Safe. The word felt foreign, as if it belonged in other families. I'm not sure," I confessed. Lena softened her tone. "That's an honest answer. It's a start." Before she could explain the next steps, the door opened slightly again. This time it was Rebecca, my aunt. Rebecca hesitated in the doorway until Lena nodded for her to come in. Rebecca entered, her eyes shining with something that seemed to weigh her down. "Amara," she whispered, "I should have come earlier." Her voice trembled, and when she reached out her hand to me, it was cold. "I tried to call you last night, but when I couldn't reach you, I felt something was wrong." She glanced at Lena. "Detective, can I speak to you both? I have information." Lena gestured for her to sit. "Go ahead." Rebecca swallowed hard. "I saw Raven hurt Amara before. My whole body went numb," Rebecca continued, her voice trembling. "When Amara was little, there were moments, small at first, that I didn't know how to explain. I told myself it was sibling rivalry or accidents, or that the kids didn't realize their own strength. But as they got older, Raven changed. Or maybe I finally saw it clearly." She rubbed her hands together. "I saw her push Amara down the stairs once. Amara was probably 12. Everyone thought she'd slipped, but I was standing at the top of the stairs. Raven pushed her hard. My breath caught. I remembered that fall, how my mom scolded me for ruining the holiday photos with my swollen cheek, and how Raven stood beside me offering cookies and feigning sympathy." Rebecca wasn't finished. "And 3 years ago, after Diane's funeral, I took a shaky breath. I overheard something. Raven found out about the Victorian house. She didn't say it to your face, Amara, but she was furious. I heard her telling someone on the phone that accidents happen, and if you're less competent, she'll be running everything." Silence fell over the room. Even Detective Lena stopped writing. A chill ran through me. Rebecca's voice broke into a whisper. "I should have told you sooner. I was afraid of Catherine. Afraid she'd cut me off completely. But after what happened last night, I couldn't stay silent." Lena nodded slowly. "Thank you, Rebecca. This helps us establish a clearer timeline." Then she stood up. "Amara, I'll keep you updated. Now Rebecca will drive you home. Stay away from your sister until we've finished our interviews." I agreed because the truth was simple. I didn't want to see Raven. Not before I understood who she really was. 2 days passed in a whirlwind of phone calls, updates, and long silences in my apartment. Rebecca stayed with me, adamant that she wouldn't leave me alone. I didn't argue. Her quiet company was a welcome relief after years of walking on glass. On the 3rd day, Detective Lena called. "We've seen the recordings," she said. "Amara, this was staged." The words echoed in my ears. She angled the cake. She looked over her shoulder first. "And after you fell, there's a moment, barely a second, when she smiled before feigning panic." A wave of cold washed over me. I didn't respond, so Lena continued. "We also got her phone. There are notes detailing past incidents, dates that match your injuries, and something labeled future." My chest tightened. Future. Foreseeable opportunities. When you'll be alone, when you'll be at your most vulnerable. "Amara, this wasn't accidental. I've planned specific patterns." I felt Rebecca's hand on my back as I relaxed on the sofa. "We're going to take legal action," Lena said. "I want you to attend a family meeting Sunday evening. We're going to arrest Raven there." A shiver ran through me. "Why in front of everyone?" Lena replied, "Because this time, the whole family needs to see the truth." Sunday came too quickly. Rebecca drove me to my mother's house, the same house that had witnessed decades of quiet neglect and the rearranging of memories. When I walked in, Raven was already there, laughing and talking, radiating the ease of someone who believed she had won. She saw me and smiled sarcastically. "Oh, look who's finally cured." My mother grumbled impatiently. "Amara, don't start anything. Start anything." As if I had ever done that. Before I could reply, there was a knock on the dining room door. Detective Lena entered with 2 officers. "Raven Dalton," she said in a clear voice. "You are under arrest." The room erupted in screams. "This is nonsense," my mother yelled. Thomas recoiled, pale. Rebecca remained frozen beside me. Raven's transformation was instantaneous. Her gentle mask vanished, replaced by something sharp and brutal. "You're joking," she said, laughing loudly. "At what?" "A birthday joke." Lena didn't flinch. "Because of the assault, and because you have evidence of intent to do more harm." Raven's eyes narrowed toward me. "You think you're perfect, Amara. You think you deserve that house. You think Diane loved you more. She just pitied you." My mother gasped. "Raven." But Raven kept going, breaking down before her eyes. "I've been cleaning up after her my whole life. She was always pathetic, always fragile, and everyone acted like I should feel guilty for being stronger." "That's enough," Lena interrupted. But Raven lunged forward, pointing at me with trembling anger. "You ruined everything the day you were born." And then the truth emerged. The truth she had hidden behind years of smiles. The officer stepped in, handcuffing her wrists as she thrashed about. "Mother, tell them. Tell them Amara's exaggerating. Tell them." But Catherine didn't move. Her face turned ashen white, her eyes wide with a terror I'd never seen before. Perhaps for the first time, I finally understood the monster she'd protected. Raven's voice broke into a scream as she was led out of the house. And I stood there, my heart pounding, knowing that the world had changed again. This time for me. The events unfolded quietly, almost gently, as if the world were trying to bestow upon me a tenderness I had never known before. Within weeks, Raven accepted a plea bargain. Conditional probation, mandatory therapy, and a long-term restraining order. It wasn't dramatic, but it was just firm, unquestionable. My mother barely spoke during the hearings. When the evidence was read aloud, the videotapes, the notes, the old injuries, it seemed as if something inside her was crumbling. One day, she called to tell me she had started therapy. Not for Raven, but for herself. For the years she had spent denying what she didn't want to see. I didn't know what to say, so I said the only honest thing. I hope it helps her. The Victorian house became my peaceful sanctuary. Restoring it was like restoring myself, room by room, memory by memory. And when I opened its doors as the first meeting place for the Diane Center, a center to support people trying to overcome family wounds, I felt something I had never felt in my childhood: safe, appreciated, free. Some say that family loyalty means enduring anything. But I've learned that true loyalty and true love don't require remaining silent in the face of hurt. They protect, they heal, and sometimes they require distancing yourself from the people who taught you to doubt your pain. I'm still learning what a healthy life looks like. I'm still finding my place in a freedom I never expected to have.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊँ कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू। मेरी रूह का मकां तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा। मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर।